A madness has long gripped New Zealand, a madness spawned by a team of bruising men clad in black. And make no mistake, this is much more than a crazed passion for sport. In the land of the long white cloud, rugby is a religion. Its high priests are warriors, ordained to ruck, maul and intimidate their opponents into abject submission.
And he's got it! And his 50th Test match! Jonah opens the scoring!
Every New Zealand kid was brought up on rugby, really more than anything. My dad said to me straight, he said, you know, rugby's the way.
The pace, Jeff Wilson's after him.
They call this place the House of Pain because of the punishment the All Blacks mete out to their opponents here. Testosterone, aggression and machismo fairly bounce around this stadium. It's nothing if not a male domain. But away from New Zealand's rugby pitches, men aren't nearly so dominant. The fact of the matter is, this is a country run by women.
Gets it back. Wilson is in. Under the bar.
Good morning, New Zealand. Welcome to the program. It's 8 minutes past 9. Well, the government has apparently stopped...
A short flight from Dunedin's House of Pain is another house and another game. In the windswept capital, Wellington, politics is the contest of choice. And in the nation's parliament, the captains of the major teams, as well as many of their star players, are women.
This man has messed up the debate right throughout the week. Mallard Crows, he messed it up, called the Speaker back, wasted time, and now we've got this cock-up.
Perhaps as the Leader of the Opposition had more regard to public opinion, she might be sitting here and I might be over there.
Most nations appear to be years away from having their first woman leader, but in New Zealand, they've already had two. Labour's Helen Clark is the current Prime Minister, and before her, opposition leader Jenny Shipley held the nation's top job. A range of key ministers are women, as are 30% of the Parliament and a host of senior bureaucrats. The Chief Justice of the High Court, the Governor-General, the boss of the largest company in the country, and a brace of city mayors, they're all women. No other country in the world has as many women in powerful positions, and they relish it.
She knew that was not true. She knew, sir, that this legislation preserves the right for the individual worker to negotiate their own contract, and that is core to the bill.
This opposition has taken this government to the wire. They are furious that they are still here on Saturday night. We mucked up their party plans. We mucked up their travel plans. We mucked up their family plans.
Today, the country's first woman Attorney-General, Margaret Wilson, has had a big win, pushing through a major bill on labour market reform.
No door is closed to women in this country. Women have got to be Prime Minister, they've been appointed as Governor-General, they've got to the top of the judicial system, they're running the biggest company, they've headed most of the professions now. You can do it, you can realise your dreams.
So what is it about New Zealand that has enabled so many women to rise to the top? Better to ask than the head of state, another woman, Dame Silvia Cartwright.
Before that I was Chief Judge of the District Courts. Right. Before that I was a family court judge, so I've had a very varied career judicially.
All of the women that you have mentioned have got there totally on merit. The two
women who've been Prime Ministers, they were voted in. It's not as if anyone said, oh, we'd better have a woman and put them in that position. Our Chief Justice is if not our best, at least one of our better legal brains in the country. There's no question about that. And so these are women who have achieved, out of sheer competence, they're head and shoulders above many of their male counterparts.
Her mouth is rather hard to do because her teeth all go back in like, well, unfortunately, it's a bit like a shark's.
No wonder the women in the parliament get upset with you, Tom.
Well, her nose is not that big, but you have to exaggerate something.
In his home overlooking Wellington, cartoonist Tom Scott is typically irreverent about politicians, but thinks there is something in the national psyche that has led to so many women taking to the public stage.
We're early adopters of certain trends. We're the first people in the world to give women a vote. I said it was a mistake at the time, but no one listened. When New Zealand decided to become anti-nuclear, we became passionately anti-nuclear. When we decide that women shall, start having a say in everything, bang, they're running the show. I can't think of any single high job now that women aren't running.
What impact has it had on politics in this country?
It's been devastating. It's had a dreadful effect on New Zealand politics. For a start, they're all hard-working, they're all sober, they're all intelligent, and it's been wrecked. It's a far more sensible, hard-working environment, and I'm really distressed.
Away from the corridors of power in the country's economic backwaters, life takes on a much harder edge.
Get it out!
Violence, unemployment and drug abuse, especially among young Maori men, is on the rise. And it's women and children who suffer because of it. Mary Pecker Raukawa Tate runs New Zealand's largest women's refuge and is now running for Mayor of Wellington.
But it is not solely a Maori problem. All women and children in this country must be able to live in violence-free homes and in violence-free communities.
A tireless campaigner, this evening she's taking her message to the streets.
And until we put our women and children first, we put at risk the future of our race.
While her plain speaking has made her enemies, Mary Pecker is adamant New Zealand men have let women down badly on issues like domestic violence.
Women who are in leadership positions in this country do tend to speak out on the social issues. I'd like to see the men in New Zealand speaking out in a far more forthright way. So I'm saying I'm looking to the men now for some leadership here.
New Zealand women aren't doing nearly as well either when it comes to wages parity. And this is an issue which affects even those at the very top.
Now, are these relations, friends?
All the daughters.
All the daughters? You've got 4 daughters.
Take the legal profession, where Dame Silvia made her mark. Women still earn 25% less than their male counterparts and still struggle with the conflicting demands of career and parenting. Is there such a thing as a superwoman? Can you have it all?
It was suggested to me recently that you can have a husband and a career and children, but you can only succeed at 2 of those. And that has a certain ring of truth to it. I don't have children. But no, that's not a sacrifice. That was a choice.
I never decided to have children. That's the critical thing. I didn't decide not to. I just decided, never came to that point of decision. I've actually had a great life doing the things I'm doing, and children wouldn't have fitted into that.
And just to dispel any remaining notion that New Zealand is an oasis of gender harmony, a raging controversy reared its head this year, which threatened to reignite the battle of the sexes.
Wearing my Kristine Rankin earrings and my short skirt.
Quite a few people have talked about the length of my skirt and that it's shorter than Kristine.
Well, I'm doing it in support of my right to wear what I like.
The Kristine Rankin controversy polarised New Zealand. Former head of the Department of Work and Income, Ms Rankin didn't have her contract renewed. The government claimed this was because of her performance. Ms Rankin said it was blatant sexism, that she was sacked because of the way she dressed. The media had a field day.
It was the turn of the three men Kristine Rankin claims were most critical to her demise to have their say in court.
I was outraged by having someone sit in front of me displaying as much as she was displaying, and I found it offensive.
Do you still find it offensive today because she's wearing the same dress today?
She's not. She's not.
She instructs me that she is. Do you think you've got a bit of a memory lapse there?
Well, I'll have to take your word for it.
Does that mean your standards have changed?
No, it means the angle I'm looking at her is different. So I was sitting to her side, and every time she moved, I found that I was having to see an embarrassingly large amount of breast exposed. I didn't like it.
Cross-examination saw many of Kristine Rankin's claims answered.
My handwritten notes of this meeting record him as having said f*** at least 4 times. In addition, he referred to numerous people as pricks.
I may well have sworn, but let me be also equally clear, it is not my practice to swear in professional meetings. It would be the absolute exception and not the rule.
And that my earrings in terms of the Darwin theory and the naked ape were a sexual come-on.
No, it's complete nonsense. I did say that I had a recollection that Desmond Morris seemed to think that ears and earrings might have some sexual connotation.
And he went on to explain the reasons that it would be platonic, because he told me actually that he was celibate.
I was rather bewildered and subsequently distressed at some of the reporting about that, which is a considerable misrepresentation of the situation.
Mrs Rankin set out to make it a gender issue. It was never that. How could it be in New Zealand with the way New Zealand is run? It was an issue about performance and competence, which she endeavoured to turn into one about clothes and style. The judge swept all that aside and judged it on the performance issue.
It has dented the confidence of senior women in the public sector and in the private sector. It's also been very interesting with younger women. They're quite perplexed about how some of these males who've had to give evidence in this case could harbour such opinions.
In the end, the judge ruled that the government was within its rights not to renew Ms Rankin's contract. But what about the government's own performance? Has having so many women in powerful positions made a difference on the political and economic fronts?
The good news is they're making almost as many mistakes as we used to, but they don't go on the terps as much. So they're not as much fun to cover in politics.
Men don't feel beleaguered at all that they've been shunted to one side?
Some of them might
ego.
do.
What's happened to the male ego?
Well, we're losing all the tests. I think someone can draw a parallel. We haven't won many rugby tests since women took over.
Men's rugby tests, that is.
Stay wide, what are we doing?
Given their impressive achievements in public life, it comes as no surprise to discover that even in the country's last bastion of male supremacy, women are also making inroads. Women's rugby in New Zealand is going from strength to strength. And unlike the faltering All Blacks, the Black Ferns are reigning world champions. Rugby's got to be one of the most sort of male-dominated sports. What's the attraction for women of playing rugby?
I don't know, I think it's the physical nature of the game, you know. A few of the women in our team like to get out there and give it a good bash.
Down, 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 crouch and hold, engage!
You're a better side than your men's side at the moment.
I don't know, I think it goes with the tradition of women's rugby. You know, New Zealand women's rugby set a high standard and the black jersey means everything, and maybe perhaps the All Blacks haven't really got that pride in the black jersey at the moment, I don't know.
Crouch, hold, engage! 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! Good, break. Okay, let's go, we're into live stuff.
Helen Clark may need a male's helping hand with her baton work, But when it comes to running the country, she's still the maestro. And even if she should fall at the polls, waiting in the wings is the next generation of women.
Yeah, we're on a roll here, and I think the great thing is that younger women can see that they can aspire to anything they want to do. I remember back in the 70s there used to be posters that said girls can do anything, but in a way it wasn't quite real. Now it is real.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good luck. Thank you.